Hey there guys, Ian here. I know it's been a while since my last video, but hey, I'm back with another tutorial and this is going to be quite a long one, probably split over a couple of parts because this is camera tracking, one of the most requested tutorials I have ever had and the bane of my existence, but here we go. This is going to be quite fun because I've actually tested this and it works, which is so nice. So I'll show you the initial clip and I'll show you kind of what we'll be creating. And yeah, so here we go. Some beautiful acting from my friend James. And this is a clip we're going to track. So we have camera movements, people moving. Not the steadiest camera in the world. Yeah. What's good about this shot is the fact that I don't zoom in. Everything I do is just me with the camera. So it should work fine. There may be a little bit of issue, but we'll deal with it along the way. And I'll kind of show you what we'll be creating in the end, which is something like this. Now, I'm not going to cover the dynamics of it shattering, but I'll kind of show you how to basically make sure that your track is fine and that everything kind of stays in place. And we'll maybe go over compositing as well. So the first thing you need to do is when you get your clip, you need to actually make it into an image sequence. So you can see here I have the initial clip and I've rendered it out as a TIFF sequence. You can do this in After Effects. And what we'll be using is a program called Boujou. So when you have Boujou open and you have your image sequence, we're just going to import the sequence here. We're going to go to wherever it's saved, documents, university, year 3, footage. As you can see, everything's nice and organized. And for this, I use 30 frames a second. That's vital information that you need, otherwise this will not work at all. So just click apply. If you saved it with TIFF sequence with alpha, just ignore that box that comes up, and straight away when this comes up, go to edit sequence and you'll see this bitch of a program has changed the frame rate back to 25. So go back to 30 and apply. Now we're all good. Now when we scrub through here, we need to kind of determine what's going to muck up for our shot. And in this case, James, as good as acting as he is, he's getting in the way of this track. So we actually need to hide him from the shot. And we're going to use the poly mask to go around him like so. Doesn't have to be the best job in the world. So this will do here. And then just go forward and move these bit by bit, making sure that he is out of shot. It's a painful process, but it is a vital one, believe me. I've done this track a lot of times for this project and oh, it was horrible. So keep going through, making sure you keep him out of shot. Well, depending on your shot, of course, because I'm not including this clip. What you need to do is go out, record, and just bear in mind all these little problems that you may face along the way. And just keep going. You don't have to do it frame by frame because it will fill in the gaps for you, but you then have to go into those gaps to make sure that it's doing it properly. The more you can keep in frame, the better. So when he goes out of shot, I'm changing the mask so that it goes out of shot as well. And a bit of a pool cue. And hopefully we are almost done. So that should be him now out of shot. One quick last scrub through, and this looks fine. Now the mask is constantly around him and it stays out of frame for as much of it roughly as possible. Obviously you can be a lot neater than this. And when you've got that done, obviously if you don't have a person or anything like this moving in your shot, you don't have to worry. Once this is done, we can just go to track features, advanced, and crank all these dots up, because the more dots you have, the more accurate your track will be, but the slower it will be. And then just click start, and I'll come back when it's done. Okay, so here we are again, and you can see we have all these crazy lines going around, and they kind of show where it's going, and hopefully it's fine. Like, you can't fully tell it, they're not going all over the place, they look vaguely like they've stuck, so we're just going to hope that they've worked. And to do that, we're just going to click camera solve, optimize camera path smoothness, all frames, and just click start. And again, I'll come back when this is done, but hopefully we'll have a track. Hey, here we are again, and you can see that the track is looking pretty good. Everything's looking like it's sticking pretty nicely. It looks like they're actually on the table, and if we go to our 3D view here, there we are. You can see it almost looks like there's actually a table in 3D space. It may look like it's a little bit wonky, but it'll do for now anyway. So next thing we have to do is actually kind of tell it what's the x-axis, what's the y-axis, because right now it has no idea, and so we need to do that in the scene geometry. And this threw me for a long time of how to use this, but it's actually relatively simple. The first thing we're going to do is find an origin, so this is where we want objects to kind of appear. And for this, I'm going to use this yellow dot here because it's where the balls would be if you were to rack up the table. So we're going to go to add coordinate from hint, and with this selected, we're going to go to origin and connect to selected, and that's going to put the origin to this dot here. The next thing we want to do is the x-axis, so this will be across the table, And so for this, if we scrub through again, we want points that are constantly there. So this point here, and holding down Shift, is it? This point here, and is it going to be Control? No, Command, there we go. So now we have 2 points which are going across the table, and add coordinate from point to selected. We want the x-axis. It says that 2 are required and 2 are selected, so connect. And now the z, so up and down the table. What we want are maybe this point here, and again that same point there, and go to add coordinate from hint, and we want the z-axis, and add, and then click update coordinate frame and close. And hopefully now you can see this now looks like it's flat on the table, and if we scrub through we can see a kind of virtual camera sliding in around, and it kind of looks what I did with the camera, and so hopefully this will track just fine. You can always add a test object onto the table to kind of see if it scales properly, and in this case it does look a little bit like it's there, so that's good. So next we need to export the camera, and so we're using Cinema 4D, and we want to browse to a folder, so I'm going to use the desktop, make a new folder called tutorial, go into the folder and just call this track 1. And something important is to uncheck use format default, make the start index 0, and scale this by 100, and then just click save. It'll export our save, and we are almost done. There's a little bit more to do, and now we can just quit out of Boujou and go to where we saved it, which will be here. And what we want to do is open with, and this is where you find your text editor, probably with a load of things popping up all over the place. And now we have all of these, which I'm hoping I exported everything right. You can see here. So this is where I always forget what I need to type in and go back to my little folder. Okay, so the first thing that we actually need to do here is replace a few things, because when you bring this file into Cinema 4D as it is actually completely wrong. There's a few things we need to change. So using the find and replace tool that TextEdit has, we need to search for ParentItem, and it's important to have a capital P and a capital I, no space, and then space 100000001, and we want to replace this with ParentItem, again spelled completely right, capital P, capital I, 1 6 zeros 2, and click replace all. And the next thing we want to do is find minus 3.14, and what we want to do is get rid of the minus above. So we got the minus 3.14 and above it minus 0. We want to make this just the 0, and we want to copy and paste all the 0 there, so overwrite the minus 3.14 with all zeros, and then just click save. And now if we open this into Cinema 4D, hopefully this will work just fine. So when you import it, you'll get this here, and we want to scale it by 10 here. And now, if we play through, it kind of looks like all the points are exactly where it is, and you can almost see the scene we had with all these dots. We can probably make them a little bit more obvious. Maybe not. Yep, there we are on yellow. Okay, so here we have all of our dots, and you can see them a bit better. So the next thing we want to do is import our background object just so we can actually have a look. And what we'll do is create a background object, a new material, uncheck color and specular, go to luminance, and we want to go back to where we saved it. So document, well, this is the image sequence we're looking for, so year 3, term 1, animation, visual effects, pool table, footage, table sequence, and just import the first one. Then go into it, animation, calculate, and then in editor, make animate preview on, and drag it onto our background. And now when we play through, you can see it's looking pretty good. So let's just do a little test and make a sphere, shrink it down, and let's grab this point here and drag, where is it? Never going to be able to find it. Let's just delete the sphere, go to that point, and did I do that right? Sphere, and 0 out the coordinates, and now if we scale it down, it should be on there. So now if we play through, it looks pretty good. Now obviously if we render, it looks pretty bad, so there's a few things that we need to do. What we want to do is make a plane, and this will be kind of the size of the table, and this is where you can kind of cheat the perspective a little bit if you didn't set it up perfectly. And then drag, make a copy of the material, copy the luminance channel to the color, and drag it onto the plane. Change the projection mode to frontal, and right click, compositing tag, and compositing background. Now it won't look like much, but when we add in a light onto this, and of course a shadow would be helpful, you can see we have a shadow on the table as well. And now we can just kind of line up the ball with the plane a bit more. You can see we have what looks like exactly, well, now it looks exactly like it's there. I mean, so obvious. I mean, you can try and make it look a bit better. You could attempt just to kind of cheat it by adding a sky and using global illumination or the physical renderer to kind of make the lighting look a little bit better. But obviously this requires a lot of tweaking to make it look 100% correct. and it's not something we're going to cover fully in this tutorial here. Global illumination again will work to kind of bring in the, or well, use the surrounding as a kind of image. But as for the tracking of the shot, this is pretty much it. I might have the file I used. Is it this one? So this is the shot I have in my final one. If I render this out, it takes a little bit longer. It has ambient occlusion on, several lights in the scene to vaguely replicate the actual scene itself. And obviously this isn't how you export it to After Effects. There are several things you need to do first, and I'll kind of show you briefly. So what you need to do is set up multi-passes here. And so what I have is the basic save file here, regular image, multi-pass image, and compositing. And in the multi-pass I have the ambient occlusion, the shadow, the reflection, and actually an object buffer for these spheres. Now, as well, to what I know in Cinema 4D, you can't just render out the shadow without rendering out the floor as well. You can render out a shadow pass, but you can't do that unless you have the floor there, and it has to be able to be seen by the camera to be there, which makes it annoying for compositing. So what I did was I actually rendered it all out, but with a object buffer on just the spheres. That way, when you composite it all together, you can actually remove the background from your spheres here using that object buffer, and then composite these shadows using the multi-pass on top of that. And that way you have a lot more control, because if you just rendered this out as it is, you'll find that if the balls are too saturated and you need to take some of the colour out, when you play with the tint or the saturation, it desaturates the background as well, so you have no control over it whatsoever. So you have to be really careful with this. 3ds Max and V-Ray have a tool called a shadow catcher, and this, it basically is an alpha channel which goes on the floor and allows you to capture the shadows without actually getting any of the information from the floor itself. I tried doing it with a cell shader here, which was recommended online, but it didn't work. It doesn't work with area shadows or global illumination, so it wasn't much use to me. So this is the only solution I found that vaguely did what I wanted to. But hopefully this has taught you how to track in Boujou and successfully import it into Cinema 4D without too much error. If it looks wrong, chances are that you filmed it with the wrong, well, you may have used the wrong frame rate, which I did to begin with twice. You may have bad footage, because not everything is trackable. It may not work particularly well for your shot, and you might have to go redo it, which I had to do over summer twice, I think, with a TV sting, which was awful. That was hell week. Yeah, but this is how I did it for this particular project, and as you can see in you can see in the preview, not the preview, the test it tracks pretty well. I added a fake camera zoom here to kind of give it a more dynamic look to it. And I still need to do some more with the color correction. It doesn't blend in perfectly. This needs more saturation. Being colorblind really doesn't help. The motion blur's all done in After Effects. You can see I use collision on the floor and on the back, so when it hits off the back, the ball kind of bounces to a stop. The track works really well. Looks pretty cool. This is a project for university at the moment. So yeah, I'm basically teaching you what we're taught at uni. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. It hasn't gone on for too long, so I don't have to split it over several parts. If you really want, I can go into more detail of how to kind of light, render and composite over like a 3-part series, but as far as tracking goes, this is all you need to know. The rest is just practice. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it, guys, and I'll see you later.